One tail, two heads, yang yin. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Three tails. Old yin. From the Book of Harmony and Balance. These essays, conversations, poetry, and songs about the secrets of Taoism teach how to live a centered and orderly life. Clarifying the basis. Since the body is non-absolute, labels are arbitrary. Once there are labels, the mind gets tangled up. The waxing and waning of yin and yang, polish, present and past. The rising and setting of sun and moon convey birth and death. If you can maintain unified stability through time, then you'll know the stroke of midnight at noon. Though dealing with the world is something that needs teaching, the work of leaving the world must be clarified on your own. Forging the sword. An enlightened teacher taught me to forge the blade of spirit. What it all depends upon is the creative work of yin and yang. Tempering the firmness of heaven, earth does the forging. Fanning the fire of awareness is the wind of docility. Having achieved unfailing concentration, the mind director is skilled. Wiping out pernicious influences, the will general is valiant. When eminent learners of Tao know the meaning of this, it is easy for them to shatter cosmic space. The moon cave. The moon cave is clear and deep, the environment most beautiful. The one who dwells there makes a living upside down, refining the gold potion in the jade furnace, cooking white snow sprouts in the golden cauldron, operating the cosmic cycle, turning the handle of the Big Dipper. Alternately passive and active, conveying the flow of energy. Having passed through all the barriers, he freely sails the silver river in peace. The hut of clarity. My hut is not an abode of idleness. Ordinary people are not allowed to see it on a whim. A wife and husband make a living. 3 sons and 3 daughters form a group. The world therein has always been vast. The space outside is not really large. If you ask the master what he does, I reply that he faces south to gaze at the North Star. Alerting the world about the 4 conditions. Body, mind, society, events. 4 empty names. How many confused people have been entangled by them? Calamity and trouble come from worldly power and materialism. Vicious circles come from obsession with objects. In trackless serenity, one may act at will, forgetting impulses when dealing with the world. Let events change as they may. When always letting go in the midst of situations, the foundation of life is secure. Essence is complete and clear. The gourd. The seed of spiritual illumination is produced primordially. Stem firm, roots deep, the principle is naturally so. Daily add the soil of the state of earth. Irrigate at proper times with the spring in water. When the flower opens, white jade, it shines with light. When the fruit forms, yellow gold, it is round and firm. On completion, the top of the head opens up. Here there is another universe. The mind mirror. Take the ore of heaven and put it in the furnace of earth. The totality of space becomes a single pattern. When the manifestation of reality is perfected, it is round and radiant. Where consciousness is polished, it shines with being as is. Emanating light, it pervades the universe. Put into storage, it is a tiny pearl. Raising it up clearly, the whole body appears. It's still necessary to break through to merge with the essential axis. The mysterious female. The door of the female of the mystic school is not hard to know. Collect body and mind and contemplate within. When you understand the principle of alternation of the two modes, then you know the timing of coming and going of the one energy. Heaven and earth, movement and stillness, open and close without cease, fire and water, awareness and vitality, rise and descend, mixing and separating. Set up the alchemical foundation at the point where thought returns. Learning. Chan Buddhism, Confucian nominalism, the Taoism of complete reality, 3 schools of teaching were set up to contact later people. For Buddhists, elements are non-absolute. It's necessary to see the essence. As Confucians investigate phenomena, they must maintain sincerity. On the Taoists' alchemical stand are kept points of fire. All kinds of atoms are melted down in the spiritual mansion. When you understand all differences are resolved in one goal, then on the bright terrace all is spring, inside and out. Verses on freedom. On breaking through the opening of chaos, there are no Buddhas or immortals. This is no marvel outside mind, and not mere verbal zen. I pass the days light-heartedly roaming, and spend the nights freely sleeping. Letting my body sink into the realm of the absolute, I entrust all things to heaven. All created phenomena are dust without exception. Comprehending the principles of things, I let go of mind and body. Wherever I am, I rest in meditation. At all times, I delight in reality. To awaken the people of the world, I always use the marrow of the I-ming. Reaching the subtlety of non-doing, I don't go outside all day. Impulsive involvements ended, the celestial design remains. In daily affairs, the action of heaven is strong. In everyday life, the force of earth is calm. I remind and suggest to my students, return to life, go back to the root. Passing through all barriers, one merges with the great sameness. Tortoise hair is naturally always green. The crane's crest is originally scarlet. What can be verbalized is not the eternal Tao. Work that is done is external work. The true creative evolution is in profound abstraction. Having attained steadiness of body and mind, I still the spirit and stabilize energy. Body at ease, I transcend attachments. Mind serene, I realize the uncreated. Sun and moon come and go as they may. Heaven and earth change freely. Openness without obstruction reveals a unique, great light. There's nothing special in my daily activities but to maintain unified central truthfulness. In stillness, I tune my breathing. In action, I follow common sense. Hiding my powers to assimilate to society, I contain my light and do not show illumination. In true freedom and bliss, I'm ever calm and ever clear. As I serenely embrace nameless innocence, feelings about objects cannot invade. As I fuse mercury and lead into powder, rubble turns to gold. Seeing the ancient sages, I reconcile Buddhism and Taoism. Immediately opening, I transcend to reality, where there is no past and no present. The lamp in the mirror. The precious mirror is basically formless. The lamp of communication emanates wisdom's light. Being as such is fundamentally brilliantly clear. The body of reality is originally radiant. The gold cauldron burns with true fire. The flower pond bathes the great light. The true meaning herein is not apart from the center. In the quiet room, I open the mirror of mind. In the vacant hall, I light the lamp of wisdom. Outside is clear and bright. Inside is effulgent light. A tiny grain appears in the glow. The silver moon is clear in the water. In the gold crucible suspended in space, a grain of great elixir crystallizes. Extolling the lotus. One seed's spiritual sprout is different. Others are not like it at all. The spiritual body is fundamentally immaculate. The true essence is basically pure. The outward form is everywhere curved. The holes within go all the way through. Mud and mire cannot bog it down. When it appears, the whole pond is red. Our original pure immaterial seed is crystal clear throughout all time. Because it dislikes mental and material greed, It bides for a time deep in the mud. It always intends to help people out, ever determined to overcome selfishness. Of the many who try to take it, how many really know what it is? Building a hut. Choosing from the whole land of open non-reification, I find suitable conditions in the jade capital. In building the foundation, it must be steady and stable. In setting up the cauldron, it must be thoroughly level. Standing up the polar mountain as a pillar, I set across it the absolute as the main beam. The blue sky is the roof. The occupant enjoys the uncreated. Leveling off the ground, I finish the foundation the same day. The mountains come in from the south. The water flows out to the west. The door is completely open. The windows thoroughly clear. Who are the companions in the hut? The light of the moon, the clarity of the breeze. Veiled words. Those who do not clearly understand are externally fixated on body, mind, society, and events, and they inwardly dwell on sensations, conceptions, actions, and consciousness. Therefore they change along with the world, are born and perish along with forms. Buddhist literature says if people want to know all the Buddhas of past, present, and future, they should see that the natures of the world of phenomena are all created by mind. This means that when there is creation, then there is change. Creation and change both derive from mind. People all think that what creates and changes myriad beings is the fashioner of creation and change, but I do not agree. There is basically no fashioner of creation and change. Beings create and change themselves. How is this so? All beings have mind, and it is because they have mind that there is creation and change. This is what I call self-creation and self-change. The forms of all in the world that has form are originally non-existent. Producing existence where there was none is called creation. When there is production, then there is destruction. When there is destruction, there is reversion to non-existence. This is called change. Repeated creation and change is the norm for beings. The essence of the unique reality is fundamentally existent. It exists but has no form, so it has no creation or change. This is the norm for the Tao. People who only know it has no creation or change and think it does not create or change. They do not know there is great creation and change existing therein. Who can know this without clear understanding? Those with clear understanding, those whose knowledge and wisdom are perfected, are able to see all phenomena as empty of absoluteness. Then, the unified mind returns to tranquility and lives independently in a transcendent state. Therefore, there is no creation or change for them. Those who do not clearly understand are externally fixated on body, mind, society, and events, and they inwardly dwell on sensations, conceptions, actions, and consciousness. Therefore, they change along with the world, are born and perish along with forms. What the eye sees is called form. Received in the mind, it is called sensation. Once taken into the mind in the form of a mental picture, it is called conception. When conception continues, it leads to doing. This is called action. The result of action, conforming to the good or bad nature of the action, is called conditioned consciousness. The flurry of conditioned consciousness is the root of routine existence. Thus, it is impossible to get out of creation and change. Anyone who is not bound by illusory objects, not defiled by the impact of phenomena, not obstructed by wandering feelings, and not afflicted by craving, will then be able to see forms, sensations, conceptions, actions, and conditioned consciousness as empty of ultimate reality. Since these are empty, how can there be creation and change? This is what the Buddhists call the ineffable mind of nirvana. Taoist literature says being and non-being produce one another. That is, non-being produces being. This is creation. Being produces non-being. This is change. Taoist literature also says, affecting ultimate openness, keeping utterly quiet, as myriad things act in concert, I thereby watch the return. That is, watching return is knowing change. If you know change, you do not change. And if you do not change, how can there be creation? Who can reach this but those who see clearly without obstruction? Those of clear perception, pure and illumined, can see that body, mind, society, and events exist in insubstantial illusion. Existence makes things and beings which revert to insubstantial illusions once they have reached their culmination. Those who see in this way know the formless form is the true form. Because they nurture the formless form, they always preserve the bodiless body, and so they keep reality complete. When one is unadulterated, pure, completely whole, there is a merging with the infinite. In undifferentiated vastness, there is a merging with the unparalleled. Transcending even beyond open nothingness, this is called freedom from creation and change. People with fixations are physically and mentally unsettled. Assailed by thoughts and worries, they therefore lose the formless and the bodiless, and so they flow in the waves of birth and death, always sunk in the sea of suffering. If you can collect body and mind, set aside thoughts and worries, not let inner states out, not let external objects in, and be inwardly and outwardly clear and serene, this is called clarification. When you get to the point where you inwardly forget the mind and outwardly forget the body, so that the unique reality is clear and you are like cosmic space, open and unobstructed, how could there be any creation or change therein? Confucian literature says not envying, not seeking, no blame, no complicity. Not envying and not seeking means not being subject to creation. No blame and no complicity means not being subject to change. The Connected Sayings commentary in the I-ming says, at a distance, find it in things. Nearby, find it in yourself. I say that at a distance, find it in things means you know all objects are insubstantial and temporary. Nearby, find it in yourself means You know the physical and mental elements are all empty of ultimate reality. By outwardly being aloof of all objects and inwardly detached from the physical and mental elements, you can accord with the celestial workings. Be pleased with heaven. Know the beginning and end of things. Know the reason of the hidden and the obvious. Know the explanation of life and death. Find out truth, fulfill human nature, and arrive at the purpose of life. Because of being pleased with heaven, you do not worry. Because of fulfilling nature, you do not doubt. Who can reach this but those who achieve knowledge? Those who accomplish knowledge are sincere, lucid, calm, and stable. So they know that illusory forms continually arise and pass away, that the deluded mind is discriminatory and partial, that society and the times shift and change uncertainly, and that works perish and do not last. When the refinement brought about through observation is thoroughly mature, this is called the accomplishment of sages. Because it is permeated by unity, there is no creation or change. If you do not accomplish knowledge, you cannot determine the character of things. If you cannot determine things, you change and shift along with things. Then where are essence and life? If there's fluid movement, not fixated, circulating throughout space, heaven and earth then meet in oneself. Myriad things are complete in oneself. When you return to vision of the heart of heaven, myriad existence return to open non-reification. Then creation and change cease. Metaphorically speaking, if heaven and earth do not move fluidly, sun and moon do not travel, then where are the combinations of yin and yang? If yin and yang do not interact, they do not ascend and descend, then how can myriad beings exist? The bodies of heaven and earth are pure and unified, because they do not mix the aberrant with the true and do not change. Therefore, there is no creation and no change. The creation of creationless creation is great creation. The change of changeless change is great change. Those who see this thereby know that all things and beings in the world are temporary compounds, and that the operations of yin and yang are all illusions. Who but the most fluid in the world can keep up with this? Viewing the matter in this way, we can see that the three teachings, Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, are just a matter of mind creation, and change depend on mind, and transcendence of creation and change also depends on mind. In learning Buddhism, it is essential to see essence. To see essence, it is first necessary to remove habit-conditioned energy by means of certainly stabilized will, and to preserve clear lucidity by the power of strict observation. After that, see through all kinds of vain illusory mental states, and do not fixate on things, so that thoughts do not follow feelings. Thoughts are the root of affliction. Mental states are the seeds of a reification. When thoughts arise, all afflictions arise. When thoughts cease, all afflictions cease. When mental states are produced, all sorts of reifications are produced. When mental states pass away, all sorts of reifications pass away. When thoughts arise, stop them. All come from mind. When you reach the point where arising and passing away itself passes away, and quiescence is bliss, this is seeing essence. Students today who cannot see essence are hindered by two obstructions, abstract and concrete. Abstract obstructions cannot be dissolved but by great perception. Concrete obstructions cannot be dissolved but by great cessation. Great perception means cutting through by knowledge. Great cessation means controlling by power. When cutting through by knowledge is perfected, all abstractions are empty of absoluteness. When controlling by power is perfected, all concretizations are empty of absoluteness. When you realize the great emptiness of emptiness and the ultimate reality of reality, this is the consummation of great perception. Then thoughts and emotional consciousness of body, mind, society, and events all stop at once. This is the consummation of great cessation. Learning Taoism is a matter of preserving essence. To preserve essence, it is first necessary to cut through delusions with the sword of wisdom. Dissolve attachment to sense experience by maximizing the transcendent, primordial consciousness and minimizing the temporally conditioned consciousness, and to use the power of concentration to forget feelings, cut off rumination, remove psychological burdens, and clarify the mind. When the mind is clear, burdens removed, rumination ended, and feelings forgotten, this is called preserving essence. When the true essence is present, there is no creation or change. Students today get carried away by emotional consciousness. If you want to get rid of emotional consciousness, first get rid of the fluctuating mind. When the mind does not fluctuate, then the body does not fluctuate. Getting rid of the fluctuating mind begins with having no thoughts. When you have fully developed the habit of freedom from thought, you can reach a state of serene concentration, free from dreams and thoughts. When this is fully developed, you can reach a state free from conception. Freedom from dreams is important for the present. Freedom from conception is important at the end of life. Free from conception, you do not create. Free from dreams, you do not change. Not creating, not changing, you are not born and do not die. The essence of the study of Confucianism lies in fulfilling human nature. Fulfilling human nature is a matter of clarifying enlightened qualities and resting in ultimate good. After you know where to rest, then you have stability. When you have stability, you can forget things in self. The statement on the hexagram mountain in the I-ming says, stopping at the back, you don't find the body. Walking in the garden, you don't see the person. No blame. Stopping at the back means forgetting oneself. Walking in the garden, not seeing the person, means forgetting things. Knowing how and where to stop, therefore being able to forget things in self and so to keep the celestial design intact, is called fulfilling human nature. When people today cannot fulfill human nature, it is because of burdens of body and mind. Once there are burdens, there is blockage. It is necessary to apply firm decisiveness and effective resolution. By being firm and decisive, you can forget things. By being effectively resolute, you can forget self. When things in self are forgotten, you will surely fulfill human nature and arrive at the meaning of life. I observe that most people in the world think this body has a self in it. This reveals a serious lack of reflection. As this body exists due to creation, did it have a form before it was created? Did it have a name? Did it have a self? After it has changed, does it have a form? Does it have a name? Does it have a name? Does it have a self? Since none of these exist either before or after, how can we cling to reification of self only in the interval between? People do not realize that body, mind, The world and events are fundamentally unreal in an ultimate sense. When we try to find past, present, and future, ultimately we cannot grasp them. The past has disappeared. The present changes from moment to moment. The future is uncertain. Throughout the ages, people have fixated on unreal objects in the midst of dreamlike illusions, forming the seeds of repetitious life cycles. Therefore, they are born and die without hope of release. If, on the other hand, people in the midst of these dreamlike illusory objects can experientially know them for what they are, and thus can dissolve fixations, they can reach enlightenment. One day I brought up this issue for my students to look into. 2 or 3 of them understood to some extent, so I composed this essay for them to convey mind by mind. If you can realize directly, inwardly understand, tacitly comprehend, then you know how and where to stop. Not recounting the past, not worrying about the future, not being attached to the present. When these 3 are combined, you attain great independence. You roam freely in the ocean of tranquility, wander in the homeland of nothing whatsoever, float in the realm of contentment. When you get to this point, you will know that creation and change have no power over you. But there's still something yet higher. Tell me, what do you call that which is higher? Turn over the legs of nothingness, smash cosmic space to smithereens, and only then will you be done. Our bottom trigram is broken, solid, solid. This is the trigram of Xun, wind or wood. Xun is both wind and living plants. Whatever penetrates, spreads, and grows, shaping itself to the space available, or shaping that space to its own nature. She is responsive flexibility, sensitively improvising and adapting. Like the wind, she can always find a way through because she never creates any resistance, and so her influence is subtle and gradual, but far-reaching. In the family of trigrams, Xun is the eldest daughter, gentle and submissive. She belongs to the southeast and to late spring and early summer. Our outer or top trigram for our primary hexagram will be read as broken, solid, broken, which is con, water. Con is deep water, flowing and formless. He is the complement of Li, dark where Li is bright, unconscious to her sharp lucidity, and represents a more fluid, intuitive, and emotional way of perceiving. This is danger, exposure and solitude, and the need to respond with courageous self-reliance when confronted by the haunting unknown. Water is the middle sun, situated in the north, associated with midwinter and midnight. That will be then water above wind or wood. Which gives us hexagram 48. Once our sixth line transforms from old yin to young yang, that will give us a top trigram for our secondary hexagram of broken, solid, solid, which is clearly also Xun, wind or wood. We read that one. So we'll have at that stage wind or wood above wind or wood, which will give us the hexagram. $57. Because we got a changing line, that gives us 2 hexagrams to read and that changing line. When we ask any question to the I Ching or consult the oracle about that question, the general context of it is going to be, how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment in time? Our answer will be understood when we understand how our answer and its different components relate to each other. The key to understanding a reading is to know your way around its main components, how they fit together, and the different roles they play. If your reading includes changing lines, then you will need to understand primary hexagram, relating hexagram, and changing lines together. The 2 hexagrams in conversation with one another map out your whole answer. The primary hexagram shows you quite directly what your answer involves. The relating hexagram generally describes what the answer is about for you. It sets the primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel and underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. If the 2 hexagrams map out a landscape for you, then the changing lines stick a pin in that map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They are the immediate answer to your question. As the most specific, focused part of a reading, their message always takes precedence over all other elements. For example, the primary hexagram might describe a reassuringly secure situation, but a changing line could warn how insecure your position is within it. We will start by reading I-ming's The Taoist I Ching. He wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept, and Thomas Cleary has translated it. In the beginning, there are quick little definitions for each hexagram that we will read our 2 hexagrams from, and then start reading commentary. Hexagram 48, the well. Accumulation of effort to cultivate character, nurturance of others. 48. And 57. Wind. Progress by flexible obedience. 57, wind. The well. Hexagram 48, our primary hexagram. The well, changing the village, not changing the well. No loss, no gain. Those who come and go use the well as well. If the rope does not reach all the way into the well, or if the bucket breaks, that is unfortunate. Explanation. A well is water with a source, which nourishes people inexhaustibly. It has the meaning of nurturance, development. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is water, dangerous, and below is wind, penetrating. Gradually progressing so as to get through danger, though there is danger, one can get out of it, as wood plunged in water emerges from the water. Therefore, this hexagram is called the well. This hexagram represents accumulation of effort to cultivate virtue. It follows on the previous hexagram, rising. Rising means harmonious progress in practice, a way to increase spiritual virtue. When spiritual virtue increases and one has accordingly advanced to the state where there is no difficulty or danger, the basis is firm and stable. Free from danger oneself, one can then resolve others' problems. With this, one accumulates achievement and cultivates virtue, using what one has developed oneself to nurture others' development. Genuine within, this genuineness reaches out, so there is benefit to others, and no harm to self. This is like a well. Changing the village doesn't change the well. No loss, no gain. Passers-by use the well as well. When the self-development of practitioners of Tao is sufficient, this is like a well having water in it. To develop others after having developed oneself is like changing the village. To develop others by one's own development is like not changing the well. Development of others must be based on self-development. As is self-development, so is development of others. This is like a well having no loss, no gain. Developing others by self-development, others and self are both nurtured. This is like those who come and go using the well as well. If one insists on trying to teach people before one has attained the Tao oneself, this is called lacking the basis. Development without the basis lacks inward mastery. Arbitrarily used, it creates confusion, and without having helped anyone else, one first loses oneself. This is like trying to get water from a well, but the rope does not reach all the way, or the well water breaks the bucket. One brings misfortune on oneself. This is because the business of guiding others comes after the completion of the great path. When the path is completed, mind and body are autonomous. Based on previous realization to enlighten others, one can thus benefit others and not harm oneself. Therefore, the main theme in each of the 6 lines is self-development. Our supporting hexagram 57. Wind. Wind is small but developmental. It is beneficial to have somewhere to go. It is beneficial to see a great person. Explanation. Wind is penetration and laying low, meaning gradually making progress by flexible obedience. In the body of the hexagram, 1 yin lies below 2 yangs, traveling the path of firmness by means of the path of flexibility, not hurrying yet not lagging, gradually progressing step by step, obedient within and obedient without, obedient below and obedient above, going from near to far, rising from low to high, like the wind going farther and higher as it blows, reaching everywhere. Therefore, this is called wind. This hexagram represents progressing on the path by flexible obedience. It follows on the previous hexagram, richness. In richness, understanding and action are united so that one can deal with things adaptively. Passive or active at will, essence in life depending on oneself and not on fate. However, the path of uniting understanding and action is not easily accomplished. It cannot be done without the work of gradual progress by flexible obedience. If one is flexible and obedient, one can endure long. By gradual progress, one can penetrate. Flexible obedience, making gradual progress, getting stronger with persistence, working without slacking off, will eventually arrive at deep attainment of self-realization. Therefore, wind is small but developmental. But though the ability to obey is a way of development, there are those who know about obedience but cannot practice it. There are those who can follow the low but not the high. There are those who can follow the high but not the low. There are those who can obey when it is pleasant but not when it is unpleasant. There are those who can obey in the beginning but not in the end. All of these are unable to really carry out the path of obedient progress. So even though they try to follow it, they do not get through. When we look for obedience in which knowledge and action are both effective, firmness and flexibility are employed together, able to be above and below, competent in both ease and adversity, effective both inwardly and outwardly, unified from start to finish. We find that only great people with balance and right orientation are capable of this. Therefore, it is beneficial to have somewhere to go, and it is beneficial to see a great person. A great person considers essence in life important, considers the Tao and its qualities valuable, looks upon the ephemeral body as like a dead tree, looks upon wealth and status as like floating clouds, is inwardly always more than fulfilled while outwardly appearing insufficient, truly applies real practical steps making gradual progress, mind firm and will far-reaching, determined not to rest until the great path is completed. Therefore, there is benefit. Those who are not great people cling to partiality. They obey and follow without balance or correct orientation. How can they get anywhere, to any benefit? So, the benefit of going somewhere is only for the great person. Back to 48 to read our changing line 6, which will have the general context of beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. And again, this changing line is going to be like putting a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. This changing line is the immediate answer to our question. As the most specific focus part of the reading, its message always takes precedence over all other elements. Line 6 from Hexagram 48, the well. The well is being drawn from, don't cover it. Great fortune. Explanation. When self-development is attained, that is like work on a well being completed. Thus the mouth of the well is not to be covered. Guiding according to the person, one is able to benefit others and not harm oneself. The good fortune is already in the beginning of self-development. This means that development of others must be based on self-development. So the work of developing others is to be done after attainment of the Tao. One cannot develop others as long as one has not oneself attained the Tao. If one insists on trying to develop others prematurely, one will suffer the misfortune of a broken bucket. Those who would take care of others must first know how to take care of themselves. We'll now look into James Dekorne's both editor's notes and compilation of multiple commentaries. Let's see if he has any nice little nuggets for Hexagram 48 and 57. the well. Other titles: welling, potentialities fulfilled, the source, the deep psyche, a resurrection or transformation, generations coming and going, and continuance of life and development, D.F. Hook. Blowfold, a well. In Judgment, a city may be moved, but not a well. The building of a city depends upon ourselves, but wells cannot be moved to places where nature supplies no water. The implication is that our activities are limited by natural conditions. A well suffers from no decrease and no increase, but often when the people come to draw water there, the rope is too short or the pitcher gets broken before reaching the water, misfortune. What we desire is therefore the taking, but we may not succeed in getting it. Ritsema/Karcher, the well. Amending the capital, not amending the well. Without losing, without acquiring, going, coming, welling, muddy culmination, truly not yet the well, rope well. Ruining one's pitcher, pitfall. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of the life water coming from the depths that everyone may draw on. It emphasizes that maintaining access to this central source is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time, you are told to go to the well. Leg. The upper trigram represents water, this is in commentary, and the lower symbolizes wood, giving the image of a wooden bucket in the water of a well. What is said on this hexagram might be styled lessons to be learned from a well for the proper government of a country. A well is to its users what a government is to its subjects, and if rulers would only apply the ancient precepts of government to the present circumstances, they and their people would benefit greatly. In the Judgment, we see the well remaining substantially the same through many changes of society, a dependable source of refreshment to its users. As the fashion of the well remains changeless, so do the principles of human nature and good government. The value of the well depends upon the water being drawn up and used, and so must the principles of good government be implemented. Anthony, this hexagram usually indicates that we have a hidden doubt or fear. We may secretly disbelieve our path. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Amid the changes of life, the only constant is the psyche itself. To be alive is to draw upon its energy. The ego's challenge lies in the correct comprehension of its images. The superior man promotes the harmonious interplay of his thoughts and feelings, works on the integration of his complexes. A well is a universal symbol of a source of inner truth and is often associated with a place that is sacred to the gods. Here's a quote from Genesis 26:25. There he built an altar and invoked the name Yahweh. There he pitched his tent, and there Isaac's servant sank a well. And from Cardinal Nicholas of Cusa, from the first well, which is of animal nature and deep, the father drinks, together with his children and cattle. From the second, which is yet deeper and on the very margin of nature, there drink only the children of men, namely those whose reason has awakened and whom we call philosophers. From the third, the deepest of all, drink the sons of the All-Highest, whom we call gods and true theologians. Psychologically interpreted, a well symbolizes the continuously flowing unconscious psyche, the fountain of all awareness. In this hexagram, each line represents a level within the well, by extension, suggesting a hierarchy of value in the unconscious. It is important to remember that not all of our inner images, intuitions, or impulses come from the self, capital. Note that lines 1 through 4 all show the water of the well not being utilized for one reason or another. Only in lines 3, 5, and 6 is it actually available for use. A quote from Psychosynthesis by Robert Assagioli. In some sensitive individuals, there's an awakening of parapsychological perceptions. They have visions which they believe to be exalted beings. They may hear voices or begin to write automatically, accepting the messages at their face value and obeying them unreservedly. The quality of such messages is very varied. Sometimes they contain fine teachings, but they should always be examined with much discrimination and sound judgment, and without being influenced by their uncommon origin or by any claim by their alleged transmitter. No validity should be attributed to messages containing definite orders and commanding blind obedience, and to those tending to exalt the personality of the recipient. The ego's point of view in relation to the well is from the outset looking in. The insights emerge from beneath the surface of awareness and can be held in the light of consciousness only if one's comprehension is able to contain them. If the bucket breaks, our understanding is unequal to our observation and the insights are lost. One might plausibly find the image for a cancer cure within one's psyche, but without a conscious frame of reference to acknowledge it, it would be unrecognized and lost. Those who closely monitor their dreams know that there is an endless outpouring of strange images within the psyche which might be of inestimable value if only we knew what they referred to. Wilhelm emphasizes the idea of nourishing the people, which psychologically means that the role of the ego is to facilitate the cooperation of intrapsychic forces. Another quote from Psychosynthesis by Robert Assagioli. The solution lies rather along the lines of a harmonious integration of all drives into the total personality. First through the proper subordination and coordination, and then through the transformation and sublimation of the excessive or unused quota of energy. And then Hexagram 57. Other titles might be the gentle penetration, wind, the symbol of bending to enter, willing submission, gentle penetration. Anyway, a bunch of different options. In Judgment, we have a quote by Ritzema/Karcher, ground, the small, growing, harvesting, possessing, directed going, harvesting, visualizing great people. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of providing an underlying support. It emphasizes that subtlety, or subtly penetrating and nourishing things from below, the action of ground, is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time, you are told to enter the situation from below. In Notes and Paraphrases, Judgment, get to the heart of the matter and act on the information obtained. The superior man acts on his understanding by implementing it in the world. The hexagram of penetration, made up of 2 trigrams symbolizing wind, which is air in motion, suggests the activity of thought, the realm of air, trying to comprehend or penetrate something. Thus, each line of the figure may be seen as some aspect of an act of mental endeavor. And then a quote from Cheng Yi. Therefore, the student must exert his own mind to the utmost. If he does so, he will know his own nature. And if he knows his own nature, examine his own self and makes it sincere, he becomes a sage. Therefore, the great norm says, the virtue of thinking is penetration and profundity. Penetration and profundity lead to sageness. The first line depicts vacillation and indecisiveness. The second shows one trying to get to the bottom of a matter. Line 3 is an image of futile hypothesizing. 4 and 5 show 2 aspects of successful comprehension, and the 6th line symbolizes an inability to understand. Then a quote from Elizabeth Hayek, Initiation. Man's intellect, the greatest but most dangerous gift he has received from God, builds a bridge across the seemingly unconquerable chasm between that which is personal and mortal and that which is impersonal and eternal. Through man's intellect, he succumbed to the temptation to fall out of divine unity with his consciousness. But by the same token, his intellect gives him the possibility of bringing back his consciousness into full union with divinity. By means of his intellect, man is able to understand truth, and when he has understood, he will seek and keep on seeking and trying until he someday succeeds in finding the only path to the realization of his self. The hexagram can also symbolize humble submission and devoted service, thus suggesting the role of the ego in the work. To truly comprehend the nature of the work is to serve it with devotion. There are some interesting associations between the act of penetration and that of submission. When dynamic and magnetic are in full harmony, they lose their individual identities and become one force, which is both and neither. Okay, and then we can read our changing line 6 from Hexagram 48 as well. Out of here. All right, let's just go to leg. It says the 6th line magnetic shows the water from the well brought to the top, which is not allowed to be covered. This suggests the idea of sincerity. There will be great good fortune. Commentary, Confucius/leg. This indicates the grand accomplishment of the idea of the hexagram. Wilhelm/Baines. In the top place, this means great perfection. Blowfold. The supreme good fortune presaged here is in the nature of a great achievement. Leg. The 6th line is in its proper place, but magnetic. If the general idea of the figure was different, a bad auspice might be drawn from it. But the water is drawn up and the well is left uncovered so that it may be used by everyone. Sincerity suggests that the supply is inexhaustible. Notes and paraphrases. Editor. The difference in meaning between lines 5 and 6 is a maddeningly subtle one. While 5 suggests that our conscious attitude reflects an inner state, line 6 suggests that inner and outer have become one. The difference is between the reflection of an object and the object itself. Compare lines 5 and 6 in hexagram number 20, Contemplation, for a similar subtlety of difference. In general, the import is that everything you need to comprehend the matter at hand is available for use. A quote from Jung in The Development of Personality. Insofar as every individual has the law of his life inborn in him, it is theoretically possible for any man to follow this law and so become a personality, that is, to achieve wholeness. And then he's broken this changing line 6 down into A and B, 2 possible meanings. A, truth flows freely. B, all the data are in. Now it's up to you to take advantage of it. I don't know whether or not we read from the back in the Taoist I-ming. No. So the changing line was our most specific point, but we'll read the back commentaries by I-ming, translated by Thomas Cleary for The Well, Hexagram 48 and 57, Wind. Water above, wind below, the well. There is water above wood, a well. Thus do superior people conform the people and urge reciprocity. Thus do superior people comfort the people and urge reciprocity. The well has the meaning of nourishing people. Above is water, below is wind, associated with wood. There is water above wood. When water rises above wood, the wood is moistened and becomes pliable, being nurtured by the water. This is the image of the well. What superior people see in this is that the people must be nourished, and when they are nourished, they must be educated. Therefore, they teach them to work so as to have plenty of food and warm clothing, so as to nourish their bodies, and teach them to know courtesy and understand duty, to get along in harmony and help each other, so as to nourish their minds. When body and mind are both nourished, people return to pristine simplicity and purity, forget their travail, become unified, and enter the realm of unconscious obedience to the laws of God. The human body is the country, the human spirit is the people. To order the spirit and carry out the Tao day and night is to comfort the people. To take to good, correct faults, get rid of falsehood, and keep truth, combine vitality, energy, and spirit, and join the earthly to the celestial, this is urging reciprocity. This kind of comfort is that whereby one forgets falsehood. This kind of urging is that whereby one cultivates reality. When falsehood leaves and reality remains, the path of nourishment is consummated. Hexagram 57, wind. Wind above, wind below. Wind following wind. Thus do superior people articulate directions and carry out tasks. Wind symbolizes gradually entering. Above and below is wind. One wind arises first, another wind follows after. Wind following wind is the image of harmonious progress. What superior people see in this is that since practitioners of the Tao live with people, they cannot but have tasks, and since they have tasks, they must carry them out. Generally speaking, to carry out tasks calls for serenity without rush. If one carries out tasks hurriedly and without first articulating directions for those who share in the tasks to clarify why they are thus and so, then people will not follow along and the tasks will not be fulfilled. Therefore, superior people first articulate directions and then carry out tasks. Articulation means clarification. Directions are instructions. Tasks are whatever people should do, things like cultivating character, accomplishing works, accumulating achievements and deeds, taking burdens upon oneself for the benefit of others. Directions are not only the orders of the rulers to the ruled. The instructions given by the honorable and experienced people who exercise leadership in affairs to less developed people are called directions. If directions are articulated before tasks are carried out, then the people will know those tasks are to be done. One person takes the lead and many people follow behind, so that all tasks are successfully carried out. This is like wind following wind, the two winds continuous, going together without mutual interference. This is the way superior people do good with others. And last but certainly not least, Hilary Barrett with I-ming, walking your path, creating your future. She kind of breaks it down the most practically, I find. Hexagram 48, the well. Key questions. What is the ever-present resource you draw from? What can you do to realize its potential here? Oracle. The well. Moving the city, not moving the well. Without loss, without gain. They come and go. The well wells. Almost drawn the water, but the rope does not quite reach the water. Or breaking one's clay jug, pitfall. The people of ancient China would sometimes move a whole city to a more favorable site, and they could take everything with them except the well. You can transplant your center and change everything about your life except for the source you draw on to sustain it all. You cannot own the source, nor carry it with you. Whenever you move, you will need first of all to dig a new well to reach it. The well itself is utterly dependable. Nothing anyone can do will raise or lower the water level. People and experiences come and go, time passes. The well is always the well and does not change. You need never doubt that you have these resources or that they are enough. The real question is whether you have the means to reach into such depths, and a steady hand to bring the water up into the real world without loss. To fail would be disastrous. The potential in the situation is undeniable, but it may still be a long way from realization. Image. Above the wood is the stream, the well. A noble one toils with the people, encouraging them to help one another. If you could lean over an old Chinese well and look down through the water, you would see a frame of logs at the bottom, used to retain the silty soil as it was dug. The noble one is as committed and involved in the well as the frame itself, inwardly as responsive as roots, outwardly pouring himself into the work like a flowing stream. The well is a vital shared resource. Everyone must cooperate to build and maintain it. Sequence. The well follows from hexagram 47, confined. Confined in reaching upward naturally means turning inward, and so the well follows. When you cannot reach upward and outward, you turn instead towards an inner source. The clear, life-giving water of the well is only to be found at the bottom of a very deep, dark pit. And then our supporting hexagram 57, she calls subtly penetrating. Key questions. How can you get to know this from the inside? What is taking shape? Oracle. Subtly penetrating, creating small success, fruitful to have a direction to go, fruitful to see the great person. Subtly penetrating means becoming part of something or someone. It describes all-pervading influences like the wind shaping the landscape. You penetrate subtly by feeling your way into things, yielding gently to their nature. You shift your own ideas and expectations and come to understand the situation from inside, on its own terms. And so, as you allow things to shape you, you also reach a place where you can shape them. The old Chinese character for subtly penetrating shows a stand bearing the official seals a ruler would bestow on those he trusted. Someone who bows down and accepts a seal is submitting to the order of things, entering in and receiving his place within it. Then his seal, sign of personal authenticity, endows him with influence and the power to make his mark. Whatever penetrates subtly becomes influential, not by acting on situations or people to change their nature, but by becoming part of their nature and acting in them. Because it never acts as an antagonist, it never creates resistance and permeates everywhere. Such influence does not bring sudden transformations. It works imperceptibly, in tiny increments, only creating small success. It is useful to align all these small shifts with a single intention that lends direction to the changes. And whether you see them in the flesh or with your inner eye, it's good to have a clear vision of the great person, a model of the larger possibilities implied by small success. Image. Wind follows wind, subtly penetrating. A noble one conveys mandates and carries out the work. Winds beget winds, movement creates movement, and the influence penetrates everywhere. This is a time to use your own inner seal of office, to translate what moves you inwardly into your influence in the world. When a noble one receives a mandate, she conveys it onward by sending out orders, and so her indirect influence reaches further than direct action ever could. Sequence. Subtly penetrating follows from hexagram 56, traveling. The traveler has no place where he is accepted, and so subtly penetrating follows. Subtly penetrating means entering in. The traveler followed his own path and minimized his interaction with his surroundings, not expecting to change them or to be changed by them. But presently, the traveler must come home. There is a time for acceptance and the interpenetration of inner and outer worlds. Pair. Subtly penetrating forms a pair with hexagram 58, opening. Opening, seeing, subtly penetrating, hidden away. Some things are in plain view, some are hidden away. Among people, there is explicit communication, and there is the subtle interpenetration of lives in countless small ways. And we will read changing line 6 again from hexagram 48, our primary hexagram, and it will have the general context of beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. Changing line 6 of hexagram 48. The well gathers, don't cover it. There is truth and confidence, good fortune from the source. Water flows strongly into this well from underground sources. It's an image of effortless plenty. The water rising in the well, gathering more even as you draw from it, a constant, dependable flow. It might seem safer to cover the well. You might want to hold yourself apart from the flow of receiving and giving, for fear of losing your freedom and autonomy in the constant exchange. Yet only when you remove the barriers and become part of the flow can you experience the true essence of the situation and tap into its deeper potential. We will read chapters 52 and 31 from the Tao Te Ching. Translated by Jia Fu Fang and Jane English. The beginning of the universe is the mother of all things. Knowing the mother, one also knows the sons. Knowing the sons, yet remaining in touch with the mother, brings freedom from the fear of death. Keep your mouth shut. Guard the senses, and life is ever full. Open your mouth, always be busy, and life is beyond hope. Seeing the small is insight. Yielding to force is strength. Using the outer light, return to insight, and in this way be saved from harm. This is learning constancy. In chapter 31. Good weapons are instruments of fear. All creatures hate them. Therefore, followers of Tao never use them. The wise man prefers the left. The man of war prefers the right. Weapons are instruments of fear. They are not a wise man's tools. He uses them only when he has no choice. Peace and quiet are dear to his heart, and victory no cause for rejoicing. If you rejoice in victory, then you delight in killing. If you delight in killing, you cannot fulfill your If you delight in killing, you cannot fulfill yourself. On happy occasions, precedence is given to the left. On sad occasions, to the right. In the army, the general stands on the left, the commander-in-chief on the right. This means that war is conducted like a funeral. When many people are being killed, they should be mourned in heartfelt sorrow. That is why a victory must be observed like a funeral.